Hello, my name is Al Hartman, and I'm the founder of Hartman Short-Term Income Properties 20, now called SilverStar Properties REIT. I want to thank you for your years of investment in this Texas commercial properties REIT. From the inception of SilverStar until 2022, you received an annual dividend on your investment. For the majority of your investment, this annual dividend was 6.5%. This track record earned the title in 2021 as having the #1 track record for a 5-year annualized return out of 30 non-traded REITs in the market. This came from IPA Stanger Report for 2021, the industry's premier track record reporting entity. This is attributable to my success in managing a commercial portfolio, acquiring assets low, increasing revenues, and minimizing expenses. Unfortunately, SilverStar was not able to refinance the portfolio while interest rates were low. Although the company was below 50% leveraged, interest rates in 2022 rose faster than any economic cycle in the last 50 years and left SilverStar in a cash-constrained position, thus causing the termination of monthly dividend payments. In August of 2022, I wrote to the directors of SilverStar informing them that as CEO, I hired a third-party investment sales broker to provide us with opinions of value on the properties, and ultimately proposed taking 30 of the 44 properties to market for disposition. I advised the directors that if sold, I believe that many assets could achieve as high as a $12 price per share at liquidation. I believe that selling assets would right-size SilverStar, decrease debt, and allow for an orderly liquidation of the remaining portfolio, creating the highest value for shareholders. This would both maximize shareholder value and provide for a shareholder liquidity process, which is required according to SilverStar's charter. Just 1 month after sending this letter in October 2022, the 3 board members fired me as CEO. They may not have wanted to wind up SilverStar, even though I believe it was in the best interest of the shareholders, since it would effectively put them out of a job. Instead, these directors have taken measures to entrench themselves and I believe are going out of their way to destroy value and put your investment at risk. In my opinion, they are doing this in the following manner. Number 1, they are silencing your voice and trying to remove a requirement for an annual shareholder meeting, even though I and other shareholders have requested that one be held. The directors could easily call for an annual shareholder meeting, which would allow for shareholders to vote for a slate of directors and for the future of SilverStar. Instead, I believe that they illegally changed SilverStar's bylaws, removing the requirement for an annual meeting, and withheld the shareholder list from me until a Maryland judge ordered them to send it. Number 2, ignoring SilverStar's charter, which requires a plan of liquidation to be implemented by April of 2023. I had a plan of liquidation, they do not. This ignores shareholders' repeated demand for liquidity. Number 3, putting your hard-earned money at risk by pivoting to a new investment of which the entrenched directors have no proven track record of acquisition or management is not in shareholders' best interest. SilverStar hired 2 self-storage CEOs in the aftermath of my termination, both of whom turned over within 7 months and 3 months respectively. Mark Torok was the first. He was formerly general counsel of the company and was fired at the instruction of Haddock. The second, Steve Treadwell, a seasoned self-storage industry expert, left without notice, only 3 months after being hired. And number 4, the entrenched directors have awarded themselves performance shares at your expense, potentially diluting your investment. We are concerned that director-awarded performance units are worth a significant amount of money. Per their filing, performance units are convertible to partnership common units and may later be exchanged for Silverstar's common stock based upon a 1-to-1 ratio. If the current common stock price has a value of $6.25 per share, and if the 3 million plus performance units were converted to common stock at a 1-to-1 ratio, that would be in excess of $19 million, almost $20 million. Additionally, we have concerns that, number one, Silverstar's occupancy has dropped dramatically and precipitously from 81% to 71% under the current management. When occupancy drops to 60%, the properties are at risk of not being able to produce positive cash flow and service the debt. This occupancy decline has potentially reduced the value of the company by $50 million. Under my leadership, leasing and property management efforts were made the absolute highest priority and involved very senior level executives, including myself, in meeting with the tenants on a regular basis, consistently renewing tenants and attracting new tenants and increasing occupancy. Silverstar, however, by hiring third-party leasing and management firms, has decimated occupancy, negatively impacting your investment. Number two, Silverstar's independent registered public accounting firm recently terminated its engagement with Silverstar. We believe that the company's auditor resigned just weeks prior to year end, possibly because of concerns about the entrenched directors and the turnover of 3 CEOs in 1 year. This certainly raises questions about why they felt compelled to end their engagement and why now. Number three, self-nominated lead director and now self-appointed CEO Gerald Haddock destroyed value 20 years ago as CEO of Crescent Real Estate. We are concerned that he is repeating the same failed business model. Haddock was previously CEO of Crescent Real Estate Equities Company, where he resigned after a precipitous decline of approximately 50% in the stock price due to an asset class pivot. He then sued his former employer and lost. We question if Haddock is trying to redeem himself from this disastrous tenure at Crescent by all of his actions at Silverstar. Silverstar's stockholders cannot afford a pivot and a 50% decline in value. Many allegations were made against me in various filings by Silverstar. I cite the following as examples of those false statements that they have made that have disparaged my character and my desire to always put the investor first. Number one, the claims that I oppose refinancing the company are false. In August of 2022, letter sent to the board of directors, I proposed to sell the assets, reduce the debt, reduce expenses, and sell top assets for the NAV value of $12 and explore financing options. Number two, tenant retention under my leadership was 50 to 60%, which is far superior to the tenant retention rate they currently have. It was my job to meet all tenants over 10,000 feet, which I did on a regular basis. Silverstar, on the other hand, has fired all leasing agents, does not visit tenants, and caused occupancy to drop from 81% to 71%, which has turned the operation into a veritable bloodbath. Number three, my turnover of direct reports was less than 10%. Dave Wheeler, CIO, now CEO, has a 20-year tenure at the company. Lou Fox, former and current CFO, has a 15-year tenure. Kim Strickland, former COO, had a 10-year tenure and was terminated by Gerald Haddock. Haddock, alternatively, has turned over 2 CEOs in less than a year. Number four, I'm increasingly surprised Haddock and his other executive committee members seem willing to say and do anything to remain in power, irrespective of whether it's true or not true. One example of their many untrue allegations regarding Margaret Hartman. Margaret was never on a career track to be a successor CEO. She earned a salary commensurate with her low-level position as an investor relations manager and was not awarded company stock. In fact, I positioned Mark Torok as successor as CEO, an individual who was later fired by Haddock. Number five, I never took a salary during my 20 years of leading the company as its CEO. My interest was in increasing value for all shareholders, unlike the current directors who awarded themselves an enormous equity award, and if I had taken a salary, it would have amounted to over $10 million over the last 20 years. In conclusion, the executive committee approved a plan to reposition assets into self-storage without shareholder consent, and I believe in violation of the company's charter. Further, the dismissal of property management and leasing personnel has caused tenant occupancy to drop dramatically and consequently asset values to drop dramatically also. If the entrenched directors of Silver Star Properties REIT executed on their responsibility to maximize shareholder value and return capital to investors, then they would sell assets over time and return capital according to the requirement of the charter. I believe buying self-storage properties in inflated markets is a poor strategy and is opposed by shareholders. 2 failed CEOs, an auditor termination, and a diminishment in tenancy speaks to Silver Star's internal mismanagement. Silver Star's entrenched directors had an opportunity to develop a liquidation plan to sell all the assets. This would have benefited the investors. These directors have neglected any communication with the shareholders until a slanderous and misleading PowerPoint statement by Gerald Haddock. The only path forward is full transparency to the shareholders and an investor vote by having an annual shareholder meeting. Should shareholders receive the fair value of their shares in a windup of the company, or should shareholders continue to be locked into Silver Star with no liquidity and provide Haddock with continued job security? Thank you very much for investing with us. I will continue working for the best interest of all shareholders, which I believe to be a liquidation of Silver Star in a short period of time and the return of capital to you with a profit. God bless you and thank you.